Now at this point, it's rather important, and I'm just going to go up here and I'm going to copy that layout. And I'll just title this one, Working with Columns. And this way I can use the same content from the previous video, and I think this will make a lot of sense to you. Working with columns. Columns. Okay, now, here's something I want to point out to you. Notice that this content is actually using columns, where this content is not using columns. So as an example, even if I was to come down here and expand this column, which we talked about before, so I'm just going to make this a full width column. So I make this 5 out of 5, or 6 out of 6, I should say, which becomes 1 out of 1. So this is inside of a column information where the other information is not. So as an example, if I was to, actually, this would probably make a lot more sense to do it this way. Let me actually just trash this info. Well, no, I'll go with that. I'll just go with that. So if I go up here to builder elements and I want to put in a, let's put in a testimonial. So I click on testimonials, and by default, it's going to put the testimonial down at the bottom. Now, the testimonial, if I was to take this, I can drag the testimonial up or down, but I really can't do anything as far as work with columns because this was not put in the column by default. However, I could come up here and create a column. So I'm going to come up here and create a three-quarter page column. So I have a three-quarter page column. Anything that you create new is going to take that three-quarter page column and put it at the bottom. So now if I want to, I could take testimonials and I could drag it into that three-quarter column. But notice by default that it's not inside of a column until you create a column by itself. So if you wanted to have testimonials 3 across the page, what you would do then is break this into a third. So there's 3/5. Well, let's do this. Let's make that half a page, and then duplicate this, and then duplicate that, and then just make this a third, make this a third, and that a third. Okay, so you kind of have to understand a little bit of whole math addition. So that's how we can do this. Now, here's another thing I want to share with you. It comes down to production technique. If you're going to finesse something, and I'm talking about font, size, color, background, etc., don't start duplicating something unless you get it finessed and looking exactly the way you want. You're going to be way ahead of the curve if you get all your properties in order exactly how you want this to look before you go duplicating something. It just makes logical common sense, and common sense, unfortunately, is something I can't teach. You either have it or you don't, or it's like my girlfriend likes to call it uncommon sense. So here's a good example of this. Let's say that I have that first one created, and I want this to be a clean design. I want the background color to be this despicable, horrible mustard color. I want the text color to be red. Oh, that's going to look beautiful. I want the order of the testimonials to be, I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and I'm going to hit save. Now, here's an important step. If I go down to my testimonials, which are down there at the bottom, and I save the changes, and I preview those changes, you'll notice that as soon as this comes up here, scroll down to the bottom to my testimonial page, my testimonial section, and you'll see there's my little testimonial, okay, based on the options that I picked. But if that's the color scheme and the layout that you want, it's going to be total insanity to go here and make a change to this one and make a change to that one. Now, if they're going to be different visually with different pieces of information, now obviously the content will be different, but the layout is probably going to be consistent. Otherwise, you're going to drive your viewers insane. So what I would suggest you do with that is to come back down here to your testimonial. Again, this could be used for any element, by the way. So I'm going to trash this, I'm going to trash that, then I'm going to duplicate this and duplicate that. Therefore, it's consistent. This makes common sense. or as my girlfriend again likes to say, uncommon sense. So I'm going to update those changes and preview changes. So once again, if you're going to duplicate something, make sure it has all the little properties and all the little settings that you want it to have before you start duplicating. That's just working smart. So now if I come down here, everything is consistent. Now the only exception to that, obviously, is you want the content to be different. It'd be very silly to have something that looks exactly the same. Again, these are placeholder texts. So use those different options, use those different properties to get your end result. And let's go back to it once again. Get to know that if you're working with columns, now keep in mind, as we just discovered, it really doesn't matter which one of these you start with. So as an example, I'm just gonna pick one. I don't know. Let's pick this one. So that's going to take that column and it's going to put it at the bottom, and it's 1/6 column at the bottom. Actually, where the heck did it go? I thought I picked that one. Let's pick that one again. I swear, either I wasn't paying attention or it wasn't there before. Now, if in fact, let's do something like this. Let's come here. Let's hit this. Let's say, is it the last column? Now, why this is important, yes or no, because you can apply a different CSS to it. I'm just going to keep this exactly the way it is here. Hide from mobile. We'll talk about that in a subsequent video. Background color, just because we can. Let's make this red. Let's make the background repeat. Everything else will keep the same. Pixel border, etc., etc. Margin space. We'll just go with basic, plain, bread and butter. Now, again, we have that set up exactly the way we want. I'm just using this as an idea and a concept. So now if I go to, actually, my mistake on that, I picked the wrong icon. I'm mouse happy. So if I come down here and I need 5 more, so there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Now, something I talked about before, if you have these separate testimonials, which are 6 of it, 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6. Again, if you slept through 4th grade math class, everything has to add up to 6. So as an example, 3 6 and 3 6, or 2 6 and 4 6. 4 plus 2 is 6. That's how you have to think about this. But what I can also do, if I was to duplicate this one more time, like so, then it's automatically going to jump into the next page. In fact, there you go. So what I can do from here is I can take this one and I could say, okay, I want to make this one be full width. And I can just keep clicking till I get to full width. So now I have a full column, or I could do a split column. So let's do this. Let's do, in fact, here, we're going to outsmart this. Let's make that 1/6 of a column again. So what I want to do is I want to do half columns, 2 half columns. But if I take this down to half, then this is going to come in its way. So here's what you can do. You duplicate the half to make a whole. Pretty clever, huh? See? I didn't sleep through 4th grade math class. So if you get to understand how it thinks, it's really simple to get any kind of column that you want. So let's do this one more time. Let's duplicate that, and that's going to knock it to the other side. And then let's take this, which will knock this one. So if you want to go 1 column on top of 2 column on top of 6 column, this is exactly how you do it. So I take this and I keep moving that out to a full column. So once you get your full width, then here. Now let's say you say, you know what, you really kind of screwed this one up. This is supposed to be 1/3. So I can click here and make that, let's make that, actually 2/5. So let's make this, so if you wanted to make this a 1 column on top of 3 columns on top of 6 columns, so you take this down to 1/3, then you duplicate that 2/3, 3/3. And then you take this one back to 1/6 or whatever it is. Or if you wanted to do 1 on top of 3 on top of 2, you would then duplicate that. And there you go. Okay, pretty cool. Now, you can, again, rearrange these. So you could drag this one up and this one down. So I could drag this one down to there, and I could drag this one up to there, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really pretty cool once you understand how you can lay out your columns and then just pepper it with other information. But also understand the difference between duplicating the column and duplicating the element. So if you want to put testimonials down here as well, then I would probably duplicate that a gazillion times and then just take that. In fact, here's what I would do. I wouldn't even do that. I would take that, duplicate that, drag that to here, then take that, duplicate that, drag that to here. And then once that's there, duplicate that 2 more times. Unless you want to do a stacked version of columns, you can do that as well. Now, if in fact you're going to do this, let's think about this intuitively. Yes, I could duplicate, 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 and move, 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 but it might be better to do this. Is just to do another one, duplicate, duplicate. See? Just all comes down to working smart, one step at a time. Once you understand how it thinks, it's really magical. It really is. If you understand your criteria, so if you know you want a half, break it down to a half, and then duplicate that half, because it's going to spit it out. So how would I turn this into fifths? Well, let's understand something. Let's get rid of that. Let's actually trash this one, trash this one, trash this one, trash this one, trash that one. Well, actually, I guess I could have done it that way too. And if you want to make this into fifths, then there's a fifth, and then just duplicate, 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 Bueller, 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 you know, Ferris Bueller. Anyway, so that's the best way to work with columns, and then shift your columns around where you want them to be. So it's really cool stuff that you can put a column, you know, if you want to do a one, very typical thing. You have one column on top of a 2 column on top of a 3 column, or one column on top of a 3 on top of a 2. And then you basically just put your information in there. But if you're going to duplicate, I can't overemphasize enough, make sure that it has your properties first before you start duplicating. This way you're working smart, not reinventing the wheel. So let's move forward in understanding more about this amazing theme.